Today we're going to be talking more about slope. If you want, you can use the guided notes that are attached, or you can draw the graphs yourself. So if you look, it says, Nana likes her milk just right. That means for every 2 cups of milk, you must mix in 8 scoops of chocolate powder. Fill in the missing values in the table, being sure to maintain a proportional relationship. So what I would do is find your unit rate. So if you know we have 2 to 8, so for every 2 cups, we want 8 scoops. We want to figure out how much 1 cup of milk is going to be. So we're going to divide it by 2. And so for every 1 cup of milk, because 2 divided by 2 is 1, we're going to say 8 divided by 2 is 4. So for every 1 cup of milk, we need 4 cups or 4 scoops of chocolate powder. So now let's fill in our graph for cups and scoops. We have 2 to 8. And so for every 6 cups, how many scoops are we going to want? So if 1 cup is 4 scoops, then 6 cups is going to be 6 times 4, which is 24. Now let's look at this one. We have 20 scoops, so we want to figure out how many cups. So we're going to divide that one by 4, and that's going to give us 5. And if we have 3 cups, and we're going to multiply that by 4, and we're going to get 12. And we already found out 1, that's going to be 4. And for 16 scoops, we are going to need 4 cups of milk. So the first question says, what is the unit rate? And so that first question, the unit rate is going to be 1 to 4. So for every 1 cup of milk, we want 4 scoops of chocolate. So, and we said before that our unit rate is going to be the same thing as our slope. So we're going to talk about that a little bit more. But let's go ahead and graph our points. So we'll start with the first one. We have 2, 8. And then we have 6, 24, so all the way up. And 5, 20. These are a little out of order, but that's okay. And 3, 12. 1, 4. And 4, 16. Now, if we look, we can see that that is going to make a straight line. So let's look at question number 2. What is our constant of proportionality? So that is going to be 4, because for every 1, we're going to have 4. And then the last one says, what is the equation? Remember we said y equals kx. K is going to be our constant. We answered our constant in number 2 right here. So our constant we said was 4. This is our constant. And it's our constant because we can multiply 4 by however many cups we are given to find out how many scoops we need to make the perfect glass of chocolate milk. So our formula, if we plug in K equals constant. Our formula is going to be y equals 4x. So if we have 20 cups of milk, we can plug in 20 for x and say, okay, 4 times 20 is going to be 80, so I need 80 scoops of chocolate. Now that we've already graphed our graph and we have our points, I want us to look at the slope or the rise and run of each set of points. So we're going to look at this rise or run, which we said was the same thing as slope. So our first one says 0 and 1, 4. So if we start at 0, 0, which is right here, How many spaces do we need to rise from 0 to 4? We're going to go up 4 spaces. And how many spaces are we going to need to go over? We need to go over 1 space. So our slope for 0 to 1 to 4 is 4 over 1. Now let's look at the next set of points. We're going to start at 0, 0. And how many are we going to need to go up to get to 3, 12? So to get all the way up to 12, we're going to have to go up 12 spaces. And we're going to have to go over 3 spaces. And we have 12 over 3, but we can reduce that by a factor of 3. And so 12 divided by 3 is 4. 3 divided by 3 is 1. So again, we can see it is rising at the same pace of up 4 and over 1. Now let's go ahead and look at number 3. If we start at 1, 4, that's going to be right here, this point. We want to go up to 5. So to go from 1 to 5, 20, we're going to go all the way up from 4 to 20. So 20 minus 4, the distance between there is going to be 16. And then from this spot to this spot, how many spaces are we going to go over? It's 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have 16 over 4. We can simplify that by 4, and that's going to give us 4 over 1, which again is the same. Now let's do the last one. We are going to start at 2, 8, which is right here. And we want to go from 2, 8 all the way up to 24, which is going to be all the way up here. So you want to count the number of blocks in between there. And the number of spaces between 24 and 8 is going to be 16. And now we want to go over from 2 to 6. And that's going to be 4 spaces. So again, we can divide by 4, and we get 4 over 1. If you look, all of these are going to simplify to a rise of 4 and a run over 1. So our slope is going to be equal to 4 over 1 for this graph. So now, you can try this next one on your own. It's very similar to the first one that we did. You can try it and see, can you figure out the chart, the graph, and the slope in between all of those points? And then turn this back on and see if you got it right. We're going to go, now that you've tried it on your own, we're going to work together. It says that my favorite lemonade recipe calls for 8 lemons to 12 cups of sugar water. We want to fill in the missing values. So if we know our ratio that they give us is 8 to 12, we want to figure out what is the unit rate. How many lemons do you need to make 1? So we're going to divide it by 8 so that we can get the first number equal to 1. So 8 divided by 8 is 1. And 12 divided by 8 is going to be 1.5, or 3 halves. And I'm just going to put in parentheses 1.5 right here. So now, if we have 16, we're going to start with our first one right here. If we have 16 lemons, we are going to multiply that by 1.5 to figure out how many cups of sugar water. And if you do that with your calculator, since it is a decimal, so that is fine to use your calculator, you are going to get 24 cups of sugar water. Now let's look at 6. If we have 6 cups of sugar water, how many lemons do we need? So we need to divide that by 1.5, and we need 4 lemons. Now let's look at 2. We have 2 lemons. So we need to multiply it by 1.5 to figure out how many cups of sugar water we need, and that is 3. If we look at the next one, we have 3.5. We already figured that out right here. So we know that we only need 1 lemon. And then if we have 1 lemon, or 1 cup of sugar water, this one right here, we need to divide it by 1.5, and we are going to get 0.66 lemons. So 2/3 of a lemon. So let's graph our points. We are going to start with, we're just going to start at the top and work our way down, so they're not going to be in order. We have 8, 12. We have 16, 24, 4, 6, 2, 3, 1, and 1.5, which is about right there. And then the 0.66 and 1, it's going to be very similar, so I'm not going to draw that one. So there is our line. So if we start with the first question, it says, what is the unit rate? And what does it mean? So we figured out our unit rate. It's 1 to 3.5. And that means for every 1 lemon, you need 3.5 cups of sugar water. And that will make the perfect batch of lemonade. Now let's look at number 2. What is your constant? Remember, the constant is going to be what you need for every 1 unit. So that is going to be 3/2, because for every 1 we need 3/2. So that is going to be our constant. And now for number 3, we're going to use that equation, y equals kx, where k is going to be our constant. So we are going to rewrite our formula as y equals 3/2 x. Now we're going to look at the rise and run of each set of points. We already have our graph that we drew on the last page. So we can now look between these points. So we are going to see the first one says 0, 0 to 2, 3. So if we start here at 0, 0, how many spaces do we need to go up to get to 2, 3? We need to go up 3 spaces, and we need to go over 2 spaces, so 3/2. Now let's try the next one. We're going to start at 0, 0 again, and we're going to go up to 16 over 24, so we are going to go up 24 spaces. And we are going to go over from 0 to 16. And if we reduce that, we can reduce it by 8, because that is its common factor, the greatest. 24 divided by 8 is 3. 16 divided by 8 is 2. And we have 3/2. So now let's look at the next one. We are going to have 2/3, or not 2/3, I'm sorry, 0.23, which is going to be right here. And we are going to go all the way up to 24, 16. So we're going to go from 2 to 24, so that's going to give us, or I'm sorry, we're going from 3 to 24, which is going to give us 21. And then we are going from 2 to 16, which is 14. So the greatest common factor is 7. 21 divided by 7 is 3. 14 divided by 7 is 2. So now let's try the last one. We are going to start at 4, 6. So that is right here. And we are going to 8, 12. So we are going to go from 6 to 12. And that's going to give us 6. And then we are going from 4 to 8. And that is going to give us 4. Our greatest common factor here is 2. So 6 divided by 2 is 3. 4 divided by 2 is 2. Now you can look. Our simplified one is going to be 3/2. So our slope is going to be equal to 3 over 2. So rise 3, run 2. Now, for your Google questions, use these 2 graphs to figure out what is the slope of this line. So use the points that are given to figure out what is the rise over the run for each graph, and remember to simplify if necessary.